Hello, welcome to the channel. A little bit late this time. Gonna be wrapping up my November fanfiction reads. For my first review spread, I'm going bold and risky. A gold-colored theme. Let's see how that goes. Honestly, throughout designing this spread, I was questioning my decisions of the color choice. Anyway, this first review spread is for a fanfiction I've been putting off reading for pretty much like 3 years. It's the fanfiction titled The Auction, written by Love Speed Car 8. Like the previous month's read with Manacled, I had to rush read this as the author mentions of taking it down from the net as it is getting adapted. It was a long 6-day read for this 41-chapter story for me. Busy month, so... Anyway, the reason for me putting this fanfic that long was basically because I felt I wasn't ready. I went into this story with a worry feeling. I knew this story broached onto a very adult subject, and it sure was. An absolute debauchery. I was honestly preparing myself for an infidel man out of Draco, like a playboy of sorts. But damn, he was far from that, and I absolutely dig it. So possessive and in love with Hermione Granger since Hogwarts years. Wow. Anyway, yes, like usual, I'm using AI-generated images for the story on my journal. I love these images, created some of the memorable scenes of the fic. Basically, the story is an alternate take of how the Wizarding world went down to a drastic turn. Voldemort won, and the good guys, albeit young ones, were put into auction for slavery. And since Draco has been secretly harboring feelings for Hermione, he bidded for her at the highest price, pledging his entire wealth. Yeah, a bit too stretched out that part, I think. I was like, don't his parents have any say on that? Like, yeah, our son is in love with this girl, but a generation worth of wealth just for her? That's why I had initially thought this fic was going down the soulmate-born trope route. What with the way Draco's parents treated Hermione like their own daughter. I thought there was going to be some sort of a Malfoy family secret thing or something. Alas, no such thing happened. That would have been more logical, I'd say. By the way, here I thought outlining the title with orange would look good, but spoiler, I'll change it later. There were some brilliant parts worth mentioning in the story, like the ever looping stairs in the mountain. I love the concept of how they went about unraveling it. Anyway, I'm giving this fic 4 stars. I'd say a must-have in your Dramini fan resume. Although, to be honest, I was rather disappointed with how vague the anticipated ending was. Too short. I would have loved some Dramini dosage after his return. Then again, that's what our imaginations are for. So yeah, the title, I eventually outlined it black. Anyway, like I said, it's a definite Dramini recommendation from me for those tens who've yet to read this fic. Definitely a good addition to your reading history. Rather enjoyable. The second fic I'm working on is a 40-chapter fic titled Sick and Fine, written by Serpent and Sage. Finished it in 3 days. AI generated images done for this fic. I am neutral about this fic. Don't love it, don't hate it. I felt it has a slow and redundant start. I mean, I do enjoy a Dramini slow burn, but this one went a bit wayward. And honestly, the only redeeming factor I felt was the main couple, Draco and Hermione. The characterization for all the characters were questionable for me. Thinking it back through, I think out of all, Ron Weasley was the most in character, then Pansy Parkinson. Even Draco I felt to a certain extent with all this smoking and man buns. Yeah, I learned to adapt to that. Throughout the whole fic, I kind of brushed through all the other characters and only look out for the Dramini scenes. On the positive note, I also like the close-knitted unit the Slytherin outcasts became in that cottage, along with Neville and Luna. Was pretty heartbroken that they intended to go on separate ways in the future. I would have loved to have them live together forever as a family. But one main thing I couldn't put my head around was a sporty Hermione Granger. I mean, what? I'm sorry, I know in the books we did not actually get much details of her Muggle life, but I don't think she could be all sporty. I can still accept that she does morning runs, but the part where she said she enjoyed Muggle football, that's where I drew the line. Anyway, I'm giving this fic a 3-star rating. Like I said, neutral. Hermione being the biggest saving grace. By the way, I don't know if I've mentioned, but I always indicate the index number of the fanfictions in conjunction with my reading log. One of the OCs I liked was not a human one, but a magical gnome. Sergio, such an opinionated little man. I found this little thief with Hermione quite adorable. Even Draco found it ironically amusing. So all in all, I still think it was an okay fic. It was an online recommendation I found. A good read with some bearable OOC-ness. For the other fics that I do not give 2-page review spreads, I review them like this. I know there's a community out there who are opposed to reading fanfictions. But let me remind you, this is my journal, and I do what I want with it. I like to see how I rate my fanfiction reads, and if I happen to reread them again in the future, I'll know if my ratings change. That's the whole purpose of this reading journal. Anyway, yes, more AI images. Another thing I know some fans are against. I love these images. Gives me a reminder of what the fanfiction was all about when I flip back through my journal. Oh, I tape random parts of my book spines, basically to prevent it from falling apart due to the bulk. This I do from lessons learned through years of journaling. Anyway, yes, if you may have noticed, Harry Potter isn't the only fanfictions I read. I've taken quite a liking to the Xavier and Wednesday Addams ship lately. So So sad Xavier won't return for season 2. Filling the spaces with tapes and stickers. So this is my reading log. We'll color those fanfictions that I reviewed, just in brown colors of my palette. That's my favorite quote of the month, said by Draco Malfoy's very own mother from the fic The Auction. Gonna cover it with this unpeeled sticker. With this washi tape, I'll make a flat window. Just for a simple interactivity. I'll be using pie charts for my monthly statistics. Be using this app trace table. Basically using my phone as a light box. Listing down the tropes for this one. Fill the sections with color pencils of my palette. I prefer to do these charts manually rather than printing them out, just because. And I think it's time for a flip through. Quite an achievement for these DNFs. That did not finish, by the way. As for my reading log, I'm also happy that I managed to fill up the whole 3 pages. Woot! By the way, I've limited myself to giving at most 2 2-page review spreads each month. Can't have my videos longer than they already are. And that will be all for today. Thank you for sticking around, guys. Bye bye.